Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back to the History AI podcast, where we dive into the most incredible stories from the past with a little help from cutting-edge tech. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder, if you love what we do, hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps more history buffs find the show.
Seriously, it takes just a second, and it helps us keep bringing you these epic, evergreen episodes week after week.
Speaking of epic, today's episode is a wild one. We're diving into the life of Dr. Earl Russell Fox, a World War II PT boat commander who became a doctor, then went back into uniform and served until he was 80 years old.
Yep, you heard that right. The last World War II veteran on active duty. This guy's story is like a real-life Forrest Gump, but way more medically qualified.
Let's get into it. Let's rewind the clock to 1919, just after the First World War. Earl Russell Fox is born on September 9th at Fort Eustis, Virginia, into a military environment from the jump. And here's where the legend begins. Right after birth, doctors thought he was stillborn. They literally placed him in a laundry bin. But later, he starts crying. That's how close he came to never making it to day one.
You've got to love that. Guy starts his life by cheating death and goes on to make it a recurring theme. He was a fighter from the very beginning.
He grew up in Newport News, Virginia, excelling in school and sports. By the time he got to the University of Richmond, he was not only class president but also quarterback of the football team. So you've got a natural leader, a tough athlete, and a born survivor, all before he even puts on a uniform.
Then, in 1941, he graduates and is quickly commissioned into the U.S. Navy after Pearl Harbor. We're talking the height of World War II mobilization. He trains up and is assigned to command a patrol torpedo boat, PT-22, out near Midway and the Aleutian Islands, which, by the way, were brutal theaters of war. People forget how cold, remote, and treacherous those northern waters were.
Right. The Aleutians were like the Pacific's version of trench warfare, foggy, storm-ridden, and filled with sudden attacks. He later moves to the Southwest Pacific and commands PT-349 near New Guinea, where the action really ramps up.
Now here's where his luck, or resilience, comes into play again. During a combat mission, PT-349 is hit and grounded while under fire. Fox orders the crew to abandon ship, and he vanishes into the jungle. For days, he's presumed dead. They're prepping to send the bad news to his family. But boom, he's rescued by local villagers and shows back up alive. Imagine the look on the Navy's face when he returns from the dead.
And he doesn't just hang back after that. He transfers to the USS Bang, a submarine that prowls Japanese shipping lanes. There, he serves through the final stages of the war, helping sink enemy vessels and cut supply lines during the island-hopping campaign.
By the end of World War II, Earl Fox has earned a Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, and a rep as one of those rare officers who could command, survive, and adapt in almost any kind of battle theater, surface or subsurface.
He started the war on the waves and ended it below them. That's range. But little did anyone know, his story was only just getting started.
Let's get into what came next. Medicine, service, and a second act that's just as wild. So, picture this, it's 1945. The war ends. Most veterans are ready to settle down, raise families, maybe go to school on the GI Bill. And Earl Fox? He decides he wants to heal people.
Which honestly makes perfect sense. After seeing so much destruction and loss during the war, what better way to turn the page than by dedicating your life to saving lives instead of risking them?
Exactly. So he goes back to school and earns his MD. He becomes a family physician and later specializes in rheumatology, arthritis, autoimmune diseases, chronic pain. This is the guy you want if your joints ache or your immune system's gone haywire.
And get this, he didn't just dip a toe into civilian life. He practiced medicine for over 2 decades in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's 23 years of small-town doctoring, house calls, long days, actual face time with patients. He builds trust, treats generations of families, and earns a reputation as a compassionate, thorough doctor.
Meanwhile, he never fully leaves the service. He stays active in the U.S. Naval Reserve that whole time, maintaining his commission, keeping up with military protocols, and essentially keeping one foot in each world, civilian healer and military officer.
Then comes the twist. Most people are slowing down by their mid-50s. Retiring early, playing golf. But not Earl Fox. In 1972, at the age of 55, he gets a special age waiver because he is that good and transfers into the US Coast Guard. Not as a ship commander, but as a flight surgeon. That's right. The man trains on helicopters in his 50s.
Can we pause there? This isn't some ceremonial title. Flight surgeons are responsible for the physical and mental health of pilots and aircrews. You're talking about high-stress environments, emergency situations, and needing to know both aviation medicine and field response techniques. And Fox retrained for that job well into middle age.
He doesn't just pass the qualifications, he excels. He gets assigned to duty stations up and down the East Coast, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York, and eventually Washington, D.C. He becomes the senior medical officer for Coast Guard headquarters, overseeing medical readiness, coordinating health protocols, and advising leadership at the highest levels.
And we're not talking about a brief encore here. He serves for another 25 years. From the 1970s to the late 1990s, through the Cold War, into the Gulf War era, and right up to the edge of the 21st century.
He's mentoring young recruits who weren't even born when he fought at Midway. Think about that, he served across multiple generations, 2 different branches, and vastly different eras of warfare and medicine.
And all the while, he brought this rare combo of battlefield experience, deep medical knowledge, and old-school leadership. He was like a walking, talking bridge between America's greatest generation and the modern armed forces.
And in many ways, it all came full circle. From dodging torpedoes in the Pacific to performing flight physicals for helicopter crews over the Atlantic. Same dedication, different tools.
Dr. Fox wasn't just a man of service, he was a man of second service. Reinventing himself not once, but twice, in ways most of us couldn't imagine doing even once.
And all of that leads us to one of the most incredible distinctions of his life. Let's talk about how he became a living monument to World War II, the last active duty veteran of that war. So by the late 1990s, Earl Fox has already lived 2 full lives. He's commanded PT boats in the Pacific, built a thriving medical career, and then spent another quarter-century as a flight surgeon. But in 1999, something extraordinary happens. He becomes a living symbol of a vanishing generation.
Right. By that point, there were fewer than 6 million World War II veterans still alive, and almost none of them were still in uniform. Most had long since retired, passed on, or faded into civilian life. But Earl Fox? He was still waking up in the morning, putting on his uniform, and reporting for active duty, at the age of 80.
That's not just impressive, it's historic. In fact, he was officially recognized as the last World War II veteran on active duty in the entire US military. That's across all branches: Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Just one man left representing that legacy, still serving.
And the nation took notice. On Veterans Day, November 11, 1999, President Bill Clinton personally honored Captain Earl Fox during a ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. That's the heart of American military remembrance, sacred ground, and there stands Dr. Fox, representing not just himself, but all 16 million Americans who had worn the uniform during the Second World War.
Clinton even mentioned him in his speech, calling him a living link to that era of sacrifice and victory. And when you think about it, he really was. He had survived the Battle of Midway, the jungles of New Guinea, the Cold War, and the rise of modern medicine, all while continuing to serve.
Just days after that ceremony, on November 30, 1999, he officially retired from the U.S. Coast Guard. At the time, he had nearly 55 years of combined service, between the Navy, Naval Reserve, and Coast Guard. 55 years. That's longer than the entire span between World War II and Y2K.
And yet, when he retired, he did it quietly, no grand media tour, no book deal. He simply stepped down, knowing his mission was complete. He had served across 7 different decades, seen the military evolve from prop planes and radar to satellites and cyber warfare, and outlasted nearly everyone he ever served with.
But his impact didn't end there. After retirement, he split his time between St. Petersburg, Florida, and his native Virginia. He remained active in veterans organizations, offered mentorship, and continued to attend military ceremonies and reunions when health allowed.
On September 23, 2012, Earl Fox passed away on his 93rd birthday. The man who was once left for dead as a newborn and again presumed lost in the jungle ended his life full circle. And fittingly, he was laid to rest with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery.
His tombstone there bears the simple yet powerful titles, Doctor, Captain, U.S. Coast Guard. But those words only scratched the surface. He wasn't just a doctor, or a captain, or a veteran. He was a symbol of what lifelong service, integrity, and reinvention can look like.
His story reminds us that heroism doesn't always come in explosions and medals. Sometimes, it's in showing up, day after day, decade after decade, to do your duty. Quietly, consistently, and with honor.
Earl Russell Fox didn't just witness history, he carried it forward. Fox's life is a testament to resilience. Almost stillborn, survived the harshest theaters of World War II, reinvented himself as a doctor and then served again decades later. Talk about dedication.
It shows lifelong service and adaptation. He didn't just retire after one career, he built multiple impactful chapters. A hero in every sense.
Dr. Earl Russell Fox embodied duty, courage, and reinvention. From risking his life at sea to healing others, then returning to serve again, his story's legendary.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate us 5 stars, subscribe, and share. That truly helps our podcast grow.
You can suggest topics on our socials, and yes, our merch is live too. All episodes are evergreen, always fresh. Thanks for listening to the History AI podcast.
Special thanks to you, our listeners. We couldn't do this without you.
Until next time, keep exploring history.
He was born with the dawn on a mountain farm in the heart of Virginia, with dirt on his arms, a boy with a smile and stars in his eyes, dreaming of healing and touching the skies. He learned from the land, from his mama's sweet grace, but war came a-knocking, quickened his pace. So he traded his books for a uniform's thread and marched off to fight where the angels had fled. Raise your glass to the ones who stood tall, to the quiet hands that answered the call. From battlefield tents to hospital halls, Dr. Fox gave his heart, he gave it all. The last salute, the final breath, he served in life and honored death. Let his story ride the wind that blows. Dr. Fox, a name that history knows. When the guns went silent, his mission changed tone. He picked up his scalpel, made healing his own. Through storms and a sickness, pandemics and pain, he walked hospital halls in sunshine and rain. A Navy dock with a gentle might, serving sailors and soldiers who lost their fight. And even when time pulled the world from his hands, he stood like a lighthouse, firm where he stands. Raise your glass to the ones who stood tall, to the quiet hands that answered the call. From battlefield tents to hospital halls, Dr. Fox gave his heart, he gave it all. The last salute, the final breath, he served in life and honored death. Let his story ride the wind that blows. Dr. Fox, a name that history knows. He lived through a century, watched the world spin, saw brothers fall and peace rise again. But he never asked asked for medals or praise, just to serve his country in quiet ways. At Arlington's ground where the white stones gleam, he joined his comrades in eternal dream. The last Wagandock to still stand tall, now rests with the heroes who gave their all. Raise your glass to the ones who stood tall, to the quiet hands that answered the call. From battlefield tents to hospital halls, Dr. Fox gave his heart, he gave it all. The last salute, the final breath, he served in life and honored death. Let the nation bow its head and close for Dr. Fox, a name that history knows.